Welcome to the 3994 this week. I'm Jodie O'Brien, and I'm very happy to be joined by Dr. Jan Glenn today. Jan, thanks for being here.
I think you're welcome, Jodie.
I've been wanting to get Jan on for a really long time. Obviously, we're on like our 15th, 16th episode, and you really avoided it.
I have.
I mean, been in the hot seat, so I'm glad you're here. The secret today.
2 minutes, Jodie. Remember, 2 minutes.
It's not going to happen. Anyway, the thing that most people might be surprised by today is that is not coffee in your mug. When we cheers today, you're not a coffee drinker.
I am not.
And I've always wondered why that is.
Never learned to like coffee. I like the smell of it, but they told me I'd learned to like it in college, but I spent lots of years in college in going and in working there, and I never learned to like it.
Isn't that funny? Yet you don't sleep, as most people know about Jan. You have this ability to stay awake.
Well,
So,
I call it a disability, but it just depends on which way you look at it.
oh my goodness. Well, I'm so happy that you're here. Obviously, we cannot avoid the fact that you just retired
I did.
from the Intercounty Museum and Historical Society. And that really was a second career for you.
Second or third, maybe. Yes, it was.
Yeah. And now you're finally kind of putting that behind you. Does it feel like you're putting work behind you? Or
I don't know if I'm there yet.
it's only been a couple weeks.
It's only been a couple. And I was in Texas for several weeks. So I've really only been back in the cold
Yeah.
for a little over a week. So we'll just have to see.
You're going to need to be careful because I have a feeling somebody's going to put you to work.
I've been practicing saying, well, I don't think that's going to work for me right now, but thanks for asking. I've been working on that.
Yeah. You don't say no very often.
I'm not good at that either.
No.
So many things I'm not good at.
Well, that's not true. You're good at a lot of things. And really, thinking about talking to you even last night, I thought, Jan's the center of so many things because education is such a big part of Savannah.
It is.
We rally around it. You not only have been working for the Intercounty Museum all these years, but you also are the president of the foundation for the Savannah School District.
I am, which we started probably about 2010 or 11, I think.
So being the center of that world and then also preserving history, I'm like, God, and I know you're involved in a lot of other things and have your kind of hands in a lot of other things, but you really are central to what I know of Savannah. And it's not just because she's my next door neighbor, but so you were so welcoming when we moved here, several years ago. Aiden is now about to be a junior in high school, and we moved when he was in kindergarten to start the district.
It's hard to believe it's been that long.
He's driving past your house
He
now.
is.
So one of the things, how I got her here today, right, was I had to entice you. And not hard because you're such a fan of Savannah, but one of the ways I got you here today was to talk about this contest through Missouri Humanities and this small town showcase. We've all been voting. We're all very excited, but really, what does that mean for Savannah?
Well, the Small Town Showcase is a program through Missouri Humanities. And basically, they have been doing this for a while. This year, it happens to be special because it coincides with the 250th anniversary of the country. So I think they're going to do some special things. But basically, they go to small towns, and they consider small towns, if I remember correctly, 25,000 or less. So we're pretty small compared to a lot of them that. But the idea is that they want to get the news out about these towns, not just to local people, but to people all over the state. And so they do a good job of helping us advertise for ourselves for a lot of reasons. One of it, obviously, is to get visitors to come to Savannah. But I can also see it being used to, if people are thinking about moving to Savannah or businesses thinking about maybe locating in Savannah. So the idea is that it's going to publicize what Savannah has to offer. And of course, I grew up in Savannah. I'm 2 miles outside or east of Savannah now, but I'm still a Savannah person. So just something that I think would be beneficial. They will develop a video about the town. They'll do a podcast about the town. And obviously, they're going to include us in there and get what we want in there, but they're going to spread it around. So they're going to pay for it and they're going to spread it around. So it's kind of one of those win-win situations if you get it, because it'll be good for them to use, but also we can use it however we need to use it or want to use it.
What are some of the stories that you'd like to see featured in something like that? Because their film production is beautiful.
It is. Well, obviously, I like to see things about the school going on. I'm a graduate of Savannah, went from first grade on because we didn't have kindergarten when I'm so old, we didn't have kindergarten back then. Actually, they had one, but you had to pay to go. And if we had to pay, we didn't do it. So, and went all through Savannah, but then, I have been an active alumni person, and I just think that our schools stand out. Given all the schools around, I think we continue to do a good job and learn things and do things with it, what we learn to keep us in the high part of education. So, and of course, I've been alumni been an alumni forever, but I've been involved with the alumni since probably 2009 and getting things going. So we do the event on the square every 3 years where all alumni are invited to come. And just getting people together, even for the help sometimes with their 5, 10, 15, 20, 50, 55, 60-year reunions. Yes. Our Savannah people come back and really appreciate, even though they don't always live here anymore, they appreciate their schooling and their hometown.
Well, one thing obviously that you're really good at is preserving the history. I mean, I know you're not down in the room putting together the exhibits and pasting things and all this, but you really have been such a leader of preserving the history in our county. And so obviously we would love for something like that to be shown, kind of the history.
Absolutely. And there's all kinds of things that have happened in Savannah that people don't know about. And honestly, I went to the museum in 2016 and I've learned so many interesting stories about Savannah. Some of them good, some of them the unsolved murder that happened on Christmas Eve in 1900, just the whole part. And yeah, I'm probably more just of a resource to get people to the right people to help do that.
Yeah, tremendous resource. So how do you think that small town history really shapes community identity? Because that's something that you've really worked on.
Well, I think that's a good question. I'm not really ready to answer that, obviously. Um,
That's okay.
I think that the stories are what make the town. And so by telling those stories, you can have a museum and you can have all kinds of things in there. But unless the stories get told, then nobody really gets into the history. I think having grown up in Savannah, I just know enough of the families that they can come to me and tell their stories, and then we can do something with that. And that was my main purpose really for being at the museum, is to do really interesting programs and stories and exhibits to get people who were non-museum people to come to the museum and take part. And so I think the stories of our local people who've always worked together to get things done, no matter what side of the fence they are on, is a big deal. And that's happened, I can attest to back to I started school in 1963, so I can remember things some from back then. And it's just been a lot of businesses come and go, but people keep coming back to Savannah. Our square right now, it's full of history, and I know some of the history, but also it's full of new things going on. It's an exciting place. I've been here in the evenings several times in the last couple of weeks, and there's cars all around the square in Savannah in the evenings, and that's exciting. I know that in the 1940s and 50s, that the square was the big thing, and on Saturday nights, businesses would stay open and the squares were packed. And so easy for me to make that switch to, well, I've been here 2 nights this week and it's been packed, and then go back to the history when that used to be the thing to do
It
if
sounds like,
people came to town.
sounds like you were at Mexican. I didn't get an invite, so maybe. I'm just
Trying to
teasing you.
remember where I was.
It's okay.
One night I was at the Bunker Club.
Yeah, that's fun. I mean, we do have a lot going on. What would you say is a moment or a project from the museum years that you're most proud of? I know we've worked on a couple of things together. I love, I love the storytelling part of what you've done best. But what has been one of your favorite projects?
Well, I think one of my favorites is Harry Duncan grew up in Savannah. He didn't stay in Savannah. He went and made his way on the East Coast, the Washington, D.C. area, actually. But he's done great things for Savannah. So being able to pull that all together and help people realize what all the Duncans, Harry Duncan in particular, and the Duncan Foundation, there's no part of our community that he hasn't touched when you think about it. The organizations, the churches, he's always been there for Savannah. And Lise, obviously, she's never lived in Savannah, but she is a huge supporter of Savannah, and she's kept it up. Harry's been gone since the 1990s, but Annalise has kept up that desire. So being able to put together this story and try to make sure people who didn't know Harry, weren't even alive when he was there, know how much that he has given to our community.
You know, this is what happens when you and I talk as I start thinking and talking to Annalise this last year. Man, her story is one, if we don't have that documented on camera, would be beautiful to get her take. Just what she shared about coming to the States, you know, and how she met Harry. And here she is, you know, a living legacy and still contributing to Savannah today because that's what he would have wanted.
And she'll tell you every time she gives money that Harry Duncan is giving this to the town.
She's a special person.
She is. And she's told me lately that she really feels like Savannah is home. And if we didn't have cold weather, I think we might get her here. But
sounds like it.
Yeah.
Well, I have to pivot a little bit to education. And I know you only came to talk about one thing. Don't forget to vote. Go ahead, tell them to vote.
Absolutely. Get online and vote for Savannah. You can vote for up to 5 towns. And so I recognize people might do that. But I just go on and vote for Savannah and keep voting.
Yeah,
you can vote many times. You just have to keep putting your email address and Andrew County, Missouri, and then pick your towns and just keep voting.
It's just like the HGTV house giveaway. When you're doing that, go vote for Savannah. HGTV to win the house, then go to Savannah. That's what I've been doing anyway.
And even if you don't do HGTV, keep going and voting on Savannah, please.
Okay, so now you have to answer questions. So education, you spent how many years in that field and really pouring your time and effort back into it, giving back even after it gave so much to you. Tell me about that time in your life, because you did pivot to another career.
Well, I pivoted during my career, just how to the ADHD mind and how it works. I started my first teaching.
Until it doesn't.
Until it doesn't. Well, I started teaching. I went to Maryville, but then actually spent time at UMKC and KU getting my undergrad. Don't be shaking your head. Go Jayhawks.
Let's not forget, he also has some background at the University of Missouri.
Well, actually, my 2 in-between degrees are from Northwest. And then my doctorate is from MU. So,
which is the most important degree you hold. It makes you Dr. Jan Glenn.
Well, that depends. The one I use the most would be my undergrad from KU, but we digress.
Okay.
So
back on track.
Now I don't even remember what the question was because you got me off track.
That's right.
Oh, so my first teaching job then was in Cameron, and then I was in inner city Kansas City, and then I taught in Donovan County in Elwood and Wathena. And then I went to Avenue City as the superintendent, and then did both jobs, superintendent and principal, and then went to Northwest. So I've been in education that way. But during my time, I've never taught in Savannah, but I was on the school board in Savannah for several different terms during my time. So,
what does education mean to a community in Andrew County? Not even just the town of Savannah, but what has it meant to Andrew County?
well, let's see, Andrew County specific. I don't know. Just we valued education, so we made sure that our kids get a good education. Um, and so I think that's what sparks our town now. A lot of people are new, but a lot of people are people who've been in Savannah or Andrew County for a long time, or maybe forever, like me. And um, being well educated gives us the um, mind to be able to think what we need to be doing as a town, to value what we have and keep that in mind, but also look at what we need to, evaluate what the different things are, and then make decisions that make sense. And that's, most towns, especially Northwest Missouri, are losing population, and Savannah is not. And I think our value on education and all the activities that go along with that are one of the big reasons why.
Yeah, cornerstone. Really. Every podcast that we do about education or highlighting somebody from the school, it's a lot of views.
That's it.
And I think it's because that is the center, right? We all have kids, grandkids, something is going on at school, and we know about it, or there's somebody to celebrate. So,
well, and even with, for instance, the pool initiative, I watch as the things come through and they're getting people to donate because, the pool came to Savannah the summer after I was in first grade. I spent a lot of time at the pool and I know all about it. But as I'm looking at the donors that do get listed, many, many, many of them are Savannah school people who went through school here. And even if they don't live here, they think the pool is important. And so they're donating money. So just every project, probably same with the turf project. You look back and you see, yeah, not all of them are from Savannah, but all of them have an attachment to Savannah.
That's had to make you really proud to see what we've done as a district in recent years, because that's not always the case. I mean, we've lived in communities where maybe the school district isn't the center of life and there isn't the support. And it just seems like we're in an era right now where we really, as a community, back the school board and back what's happening. So that has to be exciting for you, because I'm sure that you've lived through turbulent times before where maybe it wasn't the case.
I will say that the people of Savannah have always pulled around and come through. But yeah, for instance, I can remember even when the high school, which we call the new high school if you grew up in Savannah a long time ago, uh, which opened in January of 1964. So it opened right after Christmas in 64. And uh, just that, I can't remember how many times it took to pass the issue to build schools. It's always been that way in Savannah. When it would take other communities more, but a lot of them less, we'd have to go that let's vote on it 9, 10, 11 times before we finally pass it. The only time through history that I remember that Savannah passed it issue first off was probably 1932, and they passed it because the old high school will actually be the old high school because it's where the middle school was, then the old high school, but the original burnt down in 1932. So when it burnt down, kids were at the churches and different buildings on the square. And so the only time I remember them voting is because there was just not a school building there for them to go to. So they did vote, I think, first time to pass the bonds to go ahead and build that building. But other than that, I can't tell you a time when Savannah voted first off to pass something. So
It's interesting. I mean, in communities nationwide, it happens in communities nationwide where you have to really fight for, funding. It's not easy. And, that brings up kind of another subject just on a national level and a state level, funding for teachers and classrooms. And, um, you've probably seen a lot of that go down too. And I know you don't like to get into the politics of it, but man, our teachers still need massive amounts of support.
As much now as ever, for sure. Things are changing, you know, uh, and there's a fight for the money to go different ways. But really, public education, money was designed for public education so that everybody, not just people who can afford it, can get an education. And so we really need to keep pushing on that. The other thing we need to keep in mind that back in my day, when we decided to be teachers, we knew it was not very lucrative, but it was a calling. But I think people have realized now that it's a calling still. Hopefully, for every teacher that goes out there, there's a calling. But anymore, with the cost of things and people not always getting married early and whatever, it's a need that people who are teachers who have more education than honestly most people have to have that they can afford to make a living and so the need for increasing salaries, people like to talk about, well, they only work 9 months a year. hmm You don't even want me get me going on that.
We've had
And
this talk.
how many hours there were in my 9 months of the year,
Yeah.
and then going to school because you had to keep getting more hours, that kind of thing. But
Continuing
yeah,
ed.
yeah. So we need to keep good teachers. There's so much to learn, and we keep adding on things and not subtracting. So we need to really work on supporting our teachers financially, but also, when I went to school, the te- the teacher better not call home because if they did, you were in trouble at school and at home. And so that support has changed some. So we need to support teachers in a lot of ways.
So one bit of advice that you would give your superintendents or your teachers when you were educating, when you were visiting them and doing like your site visits and that kind of thing, what was that one piece of advice that you would give everybody?
Well, probably the one that I always hit classes with, especially when they're getting ready to go out and teach, is that anybody can educate the top 15 to 20% of kids because they have and I don't mean top, I mean the ones who score the highest,
Yeah.
which is what we're all about anymore is scores. Anybody could teach those kids because they usually have a lot of support, but they have a big interest. They're usually not ADHD or that kind of thing. And the ADHD kids are the population that we've lost the most with because they are really talented. But so I just tell them that anybody can teach those kids because they're motivated to do it.
Yeah.
And their parents are motivated for them to do it.
Yeah.
You're only good if you can reach the kids that are from 15% to the 85%, those in between, and not discounting the kids in the lower percentage, but there's a lot of help sometimes for them. So you got to remember that anybody can teach the easy ones, but you're only good if you can reach the majority of the kids in your classroom.
Wow. Incredible. That's really incredible. I don't think you realize how important it is for our community to hear from you because I know, shake your head, but in all your humility, you have to remember that a lot of the things that happen in this town really wouldn't happen unless you were an inspiration behind it. And I know that I haven't told you this before, but you know that you are one of the people that kind of spurred me on to do something like this. Because had it not been for you, I wouldn't have an adoration for this town. I wouldn't know so many people that you've introduced me to and that you pushed my way. And I wouldn't have had a little bit of a push towards some of the things that, that we've done together. I know the hog exhibit,
Oh, yes.
at the Andrew County Museum with several of those families throughout Andrew County who had those hog operations. Doing that exhibit with you really highlighted for me some of these stories that need to be told that we haven't heard. We got to get those documented. We got to get those on film so that we don't forget.
We do. And I will make a list for you because I can think of a lot of stories that need to be told, I'm sure.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Jan, thank you for being with us today. Congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you.
I'm glad we got you in the hot seat. And
I can't say that I'm glad you did, but I survived.
and one last push, vote.
Vote.
Voting ends probably midnight on February 1st.
I assume that it's midnight.
Yeah.
Well,
Vote early and vote often.
Vote every day.
Yeah.
And if you don't see the link on Facebook, then just go to Google Missouri Humanities Small Town Showcase, and it will give you a click on the vote thing, and you can do that as many times as you want, as long as it doesn't appear that it's AI or something like that, because they'll take those out.
And we're one of 16, and
Right.
we're trying to get to the top 5. That's when we can get beautiful video, beautiful podcast. Not as great as this podcast, but whatever.
Well, and keep voting, because right now, the last view I had, I think that we're number 2, but this will be the week that everybody in every town that's involved is going to be on voting, and keep voting. So just keep voting right up to the last minute.
Well, Jan, thank you for being a champion of this. I know you're still working even though you've retired, but we appreciate you working for something like this.
Well, and I will throw in that, I have tried to get the town to do it before, but this year finally, and one big reason is that the Rotary stepped in. I went to the chamber, I went to the Rotary, and the Rotary really got interested and stepped in. And so I want to really compliment them and thank them for getting on board and pushing that. And then Brooke at the city administrator, she also said she would help. She was glad to help push it, because it really needed the city of Savannah to support it if we were going to go for this thing. So, and a special thanks to Jessica Bledsoe, because she really worked with me on writing the application. Right now, all you see is the vote thing, but you had to go through a big writing application thing too.
I'm not going to say that you're like the grant writer extraordinaire and put that out there. However, I mean, there are things that you've done behind the scenes that none of us will ever know as far as grant writing and that kind of thing goes. And again, if no one says thank you, or if you haven't heard it enough this month, thank you.
Well, thank you. And I am lucky. People give me credit for far more than I've ever done. So thank you for that. So.
Yes. That's a wrap on this episode of the 3994. Until next time.
This week's episode is sponsored by Hair by Morgan. We want to thank our other sponsors who continue to support this podcast weekly: United Fiber, North Central Missouri College, Gina's Cafe and Catering, The Bunker Club, Scooters Coffee, Greater Than Financial, Edward Jones and Jason Sarsney, and Pancakes, Pups, and Suds. Thank you for making this podcast possible.